Jalen Carter had an issue emerge out of nowhere when we were in the room on Wednesday. I got to think about my days. This whole week's been a blur, but it was Wednesday morning as we were interviewing edge rushers and getting ready for the defensive tackles to come through. They would do the podium, then they'd go over to the media car wash. That's when we first heard about this Jalen Carter issue in Georgia arising from the fatal accident, allegation of reckless driving and racing. He returned to the combine Thursday following the 2 misdemeanor charges, turned himself in, was booked, processed, went back. My understanding is he was going to talk to the teams about the situation. He wasn't going to say, on advice of counsel, I've been told not to discuss this. And somebody reached out to me yesterday and said, well, you know what they can do now? They can go subpoena all these executives and ask them, what did Jalen Carter tell you? And I said to the person who raised that with me, let's be practical about this. Do you think local prosecutor in Athens, Georgia, is going to go state to state across the country to try to track down these general managers and coaches, open a specialized proceeding in all these other jurisdictions just for the purpose of serving a subpoena and engaging in what amounts to a fishing expedition to put John Schneider, the GM of the Seahawks, under oath, George Payton, the GM of the Broncos, under oath, just to find out if Jalen Carter deviated from the script in any way? Are you kidding me? When he's not charged with lying to police, he's only charged with 2 misdemeanors. 2 misdemeanors don't justify going coast to coast to try to find out what he may have said to these people at the scouting combine. It's ludicrous. So it's just not going to happen. The fact that it's 2 misdemeanors, Miles, tells me that there's a good chance this thing gets resolved quickly and quietly unless they're holding back other charges they plan to file against him later.
So based on what he was charged with, you think it was a good idea for him to come back and explain things from his perspective to teams?
I think based on what he's charged with and based upon what the downside would be of acting like it's all one big secret, I'm not talking about it, that could raise more of a red flag than just having a story that preferably is the truth. I'm not talking about going in there and lying your ass off and telling the same lie to every other team. I'm saying whatever the truth is, if you're comfortable with it, and this is a guy who issued a statement saying, I expect to be fully exonerated. If you are in a position where your story meshes with the truth, which also harmonizes with I didn't do anything wrong, then you should have no qualms about telling your story. Because if you all of a sudden slam on the brakes and say, I'm not talking about that, that's just something that could be a factor. And it makes people wonder what else is going on here and who are we dealing with and can we trust this guy to be straight with us? Can we trust him to make good decisions? You know, this is where there's not a straight line between action and how you project into what kind of a player you're going to have. This has little to do with skills on the field. This is where you get into who am I dealing with? Who is the person? And again, the better you are, the less that matters, right? Teams will tolerate a lot from great talent. But still, if you give them reason to pause and say, that doesn't bode well for the player. So I like the strategy because, again, unless he believes that felony charges are coming for lying to police or there's going to be an involuntary manslaughter charge or something along those lines, these 2 misdemeanors, reckless driving and speeding, there's no reason to jeopardize your draft status by clamming up. Go tell the truth and deal with whatever consequences may flow from that.
Yeah, and I guess I do wonder how much this is going to, I don't want to use the word blow over, but, how much this is going to be resolved, I guess is the better way of putting it, by the draft time, right? This is the end of April. Right now, we're still at the beginning of March, and there is time for it to be resolved before the draft so that it either would not necessarily affect his draft status all that much, or it would if it's resolved in a different way. So, that's where I sort of think about it. And it's not necessarily the same as Lyle Collins, right? Or Laramie Tunsil, where something happened and immediately, because it was so close to the draft, there was no time for things to be resolved. It just immediately affected the draft status. And, these guys started to plunge in sort of different ways. And there were different reasons for both of those things, obviously. But yeah, that's sort of where my mind, I guess, is at when it comes to Jalen Carter, is there is, I guess, time for this to be resolved before the first round of the draft starts, at the end of April.
You make an excellent point. I mean, if you're going to have a wrench thrown into the gears, you want to have it thrown in at a time when you have an opportunity to get it out, not right before the race or during the race. You want to be able to deal with it. And you got 2 months now to come up with a plan for dealing with it to minimize it. And obviously, step one was go face the music in Georgia, answer the warrants, be processed, then come back to Indianapolis and be willing to talk to the teams that are going to want to have answers about the incident. Period. That's the strategy, and that's the process toward resolving this. And again, unless the authorities in Georgia are holding more serious charges in their back pocket, what he's facing on paper, reckless driving and speeding, not the kind of thing that should cause his draft stock to crumble. And I say all that acknowledging that what happened was a tragedy. It was awful. 2 people lost their lives who were in one of the other cars, and we don't know exactly what happened, and it is a bad outcome. But when you look at the hand you're dealt right now, as Jalen Carter, with the 2 misdemeanor charges, I think he's handling it the right way. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.